My name is Daya Nursuhana binti Abang Zainuddin. My ID number is 2022659592. In Chapter 5, I will discuss about motivation during workplace. Motivation refers to the forces within a person that affect the direction, intensity, and persistence of voluntary behavior, while employee engagement refers to emotional and cognitive motivation. Self-efficacy to perform the job, a clear understanding of one's role in the organization's vision, and a belief that one has the resources to perform the job. Next, we will discuss about drive and needs. To figure out how to nurture a more engagement and motivated workforce, we will need to understand the motivation forces or prime movers of employee behaviors. Our starting point is drive, which we define as neutral state that energize individuals to correct deficiencies or maintain an internal equilibrium. Drive accomplishes this task by producing emotions that energize us to act on our environment. People develop different intensities of need in a particular situation. For instance, people who define themselves as very sociable typically experience a stronger need for social interaction if alone for a while, whereas people who view themselves as less sociable would experience a less intense need to be with others over the time. Maslow's need hierarchy theory is a motivation theory of needs arranged in a hierarchy whereby people are motivated to fulfill a higher need as a lower one becomes gratified. Maslow's need hierarchy theory, developed by psychologist Abraham Maslow in the 1940s. Firstly, physiological such as need for food, air, water, and shelter. Next is safety, belongingness, esteem, and self-actualization. Next, we will discuss about three learned needs. Firstly is need for achievement. People with a strong need for achievement want to accomplish reasonably challenging goals through their own effort, whereas employees with a low need for achievement perform their work better when money is used as an incentive. Need for affiliation refers to desire to seek for approval from others, conform to their wishes and expectations, avoid conflict and confrontation. People with strong need for affiliation try to project a favorable image of themselves. They tend to actively support others and try to smooth out workplace conflicts. Lastly is need for power. People with a strong need for power want to exercise control over others and are concerned about maintaining their leadership position. One of few motivation theory to apply this emerging knowledge is four-drive theory, which is developed by Harvard Business School by Professor Paul Lawrence and Nitin Noria. Firstly is drive to acquire, which is drive to seek, take, control, and retain object and personal experience. Drive to bond is the drive to form social relationships and develop mutual caring commitment with others. Drive to bond motivate people to cooperate and a fundamental ingredient in the success of organizations. Next is drive to learn. This is the drive to satisfy our curiosity to know and understand ourselves and the environment around us. Lastly is drive to defend. This is the drive to protect ourselves physically and socially. It includes defending our relationships, acquisitions, and our belief system. These four drives are innate and universal, meaning that they are hardwired in our brains and are found in all human beings. They are also independent to each other. No hierarchy of drives, so one drive is neither dependent on nor inherently inferior or superior to one drive. These four drives are a complete set, which mean that no fundamentals drive excluded from the model. Next is equity sensitivity, benevolence which is tolerant of being under-rewarded. They might still prefer equal outcome ratio, but they don't mind if others receive more than they do for the same input. Next is equity sensitive. They want the outcome to be equal to the comparison other. At the end of the equity sensitivity continuum, our people feel more comfortable when they receive proportionately more than others. Procedural justice refers to the fairness of the procedures used to decide the distribution of resources. Procedural justice is also higher when the decision maker is perceived as an unbiased, relies on complete and accurate information, applies existing policies consistently, and has listened to all sides of the disputes. Expectancy theory of motivation offers an elegant model based on rational logic to predict the chosen direction, level, and persistence of motivation. Firstly is E2P expectancy. This is an individual perceived probability that a specific effort will result in a specific performance level. In some cases, employees may believe that they can unquestionably accomplish the task. In P2O expectancy, this is the perceived probability that a specific behavior or performance level will lead to particular outcome. They may believe that successful performance will have no effect on this outcome. Lastly is outcome valences. Valence is the anticipated satisfaction or dissatisfaction that an individual feels toward an outcome. It ranges from negative to positive.
Assalamualaikum and greetings to Madam Rin. Before I start, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Naila Saada and my student ID is 202283200456. For my part, I'm going to present chapter 6, which is work-related stress and stress management. So what is stress? Stress most often described as an adaptive response to a situation that is perceived as challenging or threatening to the person's well-being. In other words, stress can be seen as sociological and psychological condition that prepares us to adapt to hostile or noxious environmental condition. Whether stress is a complex emotion or a cognitive evaluation of the environment, it has become a pervasive experience in the daily life of most people. As a matter of fact, stress is typically described as a negative experience. There are two types of stress level, which is distress and eustress. Eustress is a necessary part of life because it's active and motivate people to achieve their goals, change their environments, and succeed in life challenges, while distress is the degree of psychological and physiological and behavioral deviations from healthy functioning. There are three consequences of distress: sociological, behavioral, and psychological. Stress takes its tolls on human body. Many people experience tension at age, muscle pain, and related problems mainly due to muscle contraction from the stress response. In terms of sociological, studies has found that high stress levels also contribute to cardiovascular disease, including heart attack and stroke, and may be associated with some form of cancer. Stress also produces various psychological consequences, such as job dissatisfaction, moodiness, depression, and lower organizational commitment. Furthermore, various behavioral outcomes have been linked to high or persistent stress, including lower job performance, poor decision making, and increased workplace accident and aggressive behavior. Most people react to stress through fight or flight. So increased absenteeism is another outcome because it is a form of flight. What are stressors? Stressors are the causes of stress that affect any environmental condition that places a physical or emotional demand on the person. There are three common workplace stressors, which is harassment and incivility, work overload, and low task control. One of the fastest growing sources of workplace stress is psychological harassment. Psychological harassment includes repeated hostile or unwanted conduct, verbal comments, action, and gesture that undermine employees' dignity or psychological or physical integrity. This definition covers a broad landscape of behavior, from threats and bullying to subtle yet persistent forms of incivility. The second one is work overload. Almost everyone, including professional and management staff members, work 35 to 45 hours per week. The question is, why do employees need to work at such long hours? One explanation is the combined effect of technology and globalism. The second factor is that many people are caught up in consumerism. They want to buy more goods and services, and doing so requires more income through longer work hours. The third reason is called that the ideal worker's norm. Professionals expect themselves and others to work longer hours. For them, it is a symbol of their superhuman capacity to perform above others. Last but not least, low task control is one of the most important findings emerging from stress research. Is that employees are more stressed when they lack control over how and when they perform their tasks, as well as the pace of work activity. Work is potentially more stressful when it is paced by a machine, involves monitoring equipment, or follows a schedule controlled by someone else. Low task control increases the risk of job burnout because employees face high workloads without the ability to adjust the pace of the loads to their own energies, attention span, and other resources. Furthermore, the degree to which low task control is a stress increases with the burden of the responsibility of employees that they must carry. In this slide, I am going to talk about on how to manage work-related stress. Many people deny the existence of their stress until it has become more serious outcomes. This avoidance strategy creates a vicious cycle because the failure to cope with stress becomes another stressor on top of the one that created the stress in the first place. There are 5 strategies as to manage work-related stress, which is remove the stressor, withdraw from the stressor, change stress perceptions, control stress consequences, and receive social support. The first strategy is to remove the stressor. There are many ways to remove the stressor, but some of the more common action involve assigning employees to jobs that match their skills and preferences, reducing excessive workplace noise, having a complaint system, and taking corrective action against harassment, and giving employees more control over the work process. Another way is that companies can remove stressor by facilitating better work-life balance. What is work-life balance? It is one initiative that can minimize conflict between the employees' work and non-work demand. Move to the second strategy, withdraw from the stressor. It is an alternative strategy to permanently or temporarily remove employees from the stressor. Permanent withdrawal occurs when employees are transferred to jobs that are better fits for their competency and values. Temporary withdrawing from stressor is the most frequent way that employees manage stress. Vacations and holiday are important opportunities for employees to recover from stress and re-energize for future challenges. For example, a company can provide innovative way for employees to withdraw from stressful work throughout the day, such as games rules, karaoke rooms, ice cream car breaks, nap rooms, and cafeterias that include live piano recitals. The third strategy is to change stress perception. Consequently, another way to manage stress is to help employees improve their self-concept so that their job challenges are not perceived as threatening. Personal goal setting and self-reinforcement can also reduce the stress that people experience when they enter new work setting. Research also suggests that some form of humor can improve optimism and create positive emotions by taking some psychological weight off the situations. Next, as to control stress consequences, by having regular exercise and maintaining a healthy lifestyle is an effective stress management strategy because it controls stress consequences. Research indicates that physical exercise reduces the sociological consequences of stress by helping employees moderate their breathing and heart rate, muscle tension, and stomach acidity. For instance, many companies offer Pilates, yoga, and other exercise and meditation classes during the workday. Research indicates that various forms of meditation reduce anxiety, reduce blood pressure and muscle tension, and moderate breathing and heart rate. Wellness program can also help in control the consequences of stress. This program includes that inform employees about better nutrition and fitness, regular sleep, and other good health habits. Last but not least, by receiving social support can help to manage work-related stress. It is because social support occurs when co-workers, supervisors, family members, friends, and others provide emotional or informational supports to buffer an individual's stress experiences. For instance, one recent study found that employees whose managers were good at empathizing experiences fewer stress symptoms than did employees whose managers were less empathetic. Social supports potentially improve a person's optimism and self-confidence. This is because the support makes people feel valued and worthy. Not only that, social support also provides information to help the person interpret, comprehend, and possibly remove the stressor. For instance, to reduce a new employee's stress, co-workers could describe ways to handle difficult customers. Seeking social support is called a 10 and be friends. Respond to stress, and research suggests that women often follow this route rather than the fight or flight.
Greetings to Madam Rin and my group members. My name is Azrinas binti Ahmad and I will be presenting about Chapter 8, Communication. Communication is a process in which information is transmitted and understood between two or more people. It is important for every organization to have an effective communication. This is because the people who work together can only finish their work successfully if they communicate effectively. There are three importance of communication. Firstly, coordinating work activities. When working, we usually coordinate with other departments to work in groups. Hence, there is a unity of action among the group of employees. This will make it easier for doing work activities as there is no problem with communication. Next, important for organizational learning and decision making. Through this way, knowledge, especially the new ones, enter the communication process. We cannot do a decision-making process without any knowledge about the context. This required communication at the same time cooperation from all the employees. Lastly, employee well-being. This was proven when people who communicate regularly are less likely to get diseases or illnesses. To conclude, good communication can boost employees' motivation and productivity. Best communication channels consist of three types. First is social acceptance. Social acceptance means how good the communication channel and whether it is supported by the organization. We must know the norms such as which way of communication they prefer, such as messaging or telephone calls. Next is media richness. Media richness refers to the channel's data carrying capacity, and it must be in range with the communication activity. To know whether a communication channel has high richness is when it is able to carry more data. Lastly, social presence. In other words, social presence is a face-to-face communication channel. It is the best because it gives a sense of belonging, especially to larger groups. There are 4 advantages of grapevine communication. First and foremost, fills in missing information from formal sources. For an example, if some information is incomplete. Secondly, it strengthens corporate culture. This occurs when symbols of the organization's culture are communicated. Next, relieves anxiety. The grapevine communication can relieve anxiety as grapevine communication practices us to be more comfortable in social interactions. Lastly, it gives signals that problem exists. Grapevine can give signals when there is a problem as it carries information more faster. That is all from me. Thank you for listening.
Hello and greetings to Madam Rin. My name is Sherin Jalong. My student ID is 2022830486. Today, I will explain to you about the communication process and communications barrier. We start with communications process. According to the model in this slide, communications flow through channels between the sender and receiver. The sender forms a message encoded it into words, gesture, voice, intonation, and other symbols or signs. Next, the encoded message is transmitted to the intended receiver through one or more communication channels, which we call media. The receiver sends the incoming message and decodes it into something meaningful. Ideally, the decoded meaning is what the sender had intended. In most situations, the sender looks for evidence that the other person received and understood the transmitted message. This feedback may be a formal acknowledgement such as, "Yes, I know what you mean," or indirect evidence from the receiver's subsequent action. Notice that feedback repeats the communication process. Intended feedback is encoded, transmitted, received, and decoded from the receiver to the sender of the original message. This model recognizes the communication is not a free-flowing conduit. Rather, the transmission of meaning from one person to another is hampered by noise, the psychological, social, and structural barriers that distort and obscure the sender's intended message. If any part of the communication process is distorted or broken, the sender and receiver will not have a common understanding of the message. In the next slide, I will explain about the communication barriers. One barrier is the imperfect perceptual process of both sender and receiver. As receiver, we don't listen as well as sender assume, and our needs and expectations influence the signal we notice and ignore. We aren't any better as sender either. Some studies suggest that we have difficulty stepping out of our own perspective and stepping into the perspective of others. So we underestimate how well other people understand the message we are communicating. Even if the perceptual process is well tuned, messages sometimes get filtered on their way up or down the corporate hierarchy. Filtering may involve deleting or delaying negative information or using less harsh words so that the message sounds more favorable. The next communication barrier is filtering. Filtering is most common where the organization rewards employees who communicate mainly positive information and among employees with strong career mobility aspirations. A different kind of filtering occurs because of the expectation we have about others' behavior. If one of our co-workers usually communicates aggressively, we are likely to interpret everything this person said through this filter. Although many factors shape our expectation, some of our strongest expectations are created by stereotypes. Then, language differences represent a third source of communications noise. But even if two people speak the same language, they might have different meanings for particular words and phrases. Jargon, which includes specialized words and phrases for specific occupation or group, is designed to improve communication efficiency. However, it has the opposite effect when senders transmit jargon to people who do not possess the jargon codebook. Furthermore, people who use jargon to access put themselves in an unflattering light. No matter how well we know a language, words and phrases have enough ambiguity to create confusion. The ambiguity of language isn't always dysfunctional noise. Corporate leaders sometimes rely on metaphors and other vague language to describe ill-defined or complex ideas. Ambiguity is also used to avoid conveying or creating undesirable emotions. For example, one study reported that people rely on more ambiguous language when communicating with people who have different values and beliefs. In this situation, ambiguity minimizes the risk of conflict. The last communication barrier is information overload. Information overload occurs whenever the job's information load exceeds the individual's capacity to get through it. Employees have a certain information processing capacity, the amount of information that they are able to process in a fixed unit of time. At the same time, jobs have a varying information load, the amount of information to be processed per unit of time. Information overload creates noise in the communication system because information gets overlooked or misinterpreted when people can't process it fast enough. The result is poorer quality decision as well as higher stress.
I guess that's all from us. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time, madam.